Growing up, there were 5 teams outside of English football that were considered superpowers. The 2 Spanish giants being Real Madrid and Barcelona, the Bundesliga rulers Bayern Munich, PSG of Paris and France, and the Serie A kings Juventus. Majority of these teams still reign supreme to this day, with the exception of one, and that club being Juventus. From winning 9 league titles and signing Cristiano Ronaldo to finishing 7th and being banned from European football for a season and being handed a points deduction, this is the inevitable downfall of Juventus. In the early 2000s, 2006 to be exact, there was a scandal that exposed the dark secrets of Italian football. This would of course be the infamous Calciopoli scandal. This whole scandal was birthed when an investigation into alleged doping allegations against Juventus. Whilst investigating these claims, prosecutors monitored mobile phone calls and would overhear key figures in Italian football pressuring referees to favour specific clubs, aka match fixing. Who would find himself at the centre of this all? Juventus' general manager Luciano Moggi. This would lead to Juventus and 4 other Serie A clubs being punished. Juventus were the ones that received the harshest punishments. These punishments would be as followed. Fiorentina and Lazio were banned from European football for the following season, and AC Milan were handed a 30 points deduction for the previous season, with smaller points deductions to follow in the future season. And Juventus would be relegated to Serie B and have 2 of their Serie A league titles stripped from them. And although Juventus would go on to dominate in the years following this scandal, this situation will become a lot more relevant again later down the line. In the summer of 2018, the Old Lady were coming off the back of their 7th successive Serie A title, and despite dominating the league for almost a decade, the club weren't happy with their European performances, with them losing in the final twice in 3 seasons and failing to reach a semi-final 6 times in 8 years, with those 2 times that they did reach a semi-final in those 8 years being the, as for previously mentioned, 2 losses in the final. To combat this lack of European success, the Italian giants went out to sign Mr. Champions League himself, Cristiano Ronaldo, who was just coming off the back of winning 3 Champions League trophies in a row with Real Madrid. Ronaldo would sign for 116 million euros on a 4-year deal, which would see him earning 13 million euros a year. Juventus were under the impression that signing arguably the best player to ever play the game would guarantee them a Champions League trophy. Unfortunately, they overlooked the fact that there is also 10 other players on the pitch other than Cristiano. This would lead to the squad not being refreshed and strengthened, with the main core of their team aging and passing their prime. The only players that would improve the starting XI during Ronaldo's tenure at the club would be De Ligt at centre-back, Chiesa, who only came in on loan while Ronaldo was at the club, and Rabiot, who came in on a free from Paris Saint-Germain. With the rest of their signings either being fringe players or players that would depart the club after 1 or 2 seasons at a significant financial loss to the club, Ronaldo's arrival didn't have the desired effect on their Champions League goals, with the club being knocked out by lesser opposition in all 3 of Ronaldo's seasons at the club. The furthest they would go in Ronaldo's tenure would be in his first season, where they were knocked out by Ajax in the quarter-final. This would follow by 2 back-to-back round of 16 exits to Lyon of France and Porto of Portugal. Ronaldo would leave Juventus after 3 seasons for 17 million euros, leaving the Old Lady 100 million euros in loss on the transfer. Juventus didn't just fail to win the Champions League, they would also fail to win the league in Ronaldo's final season, finishing 4th in Serie A in 2020-2021, with them not winning the league since then. Max Allegri is the manager of Juventus, and his less than glamorous brand of football is seen as one of the many reasons as to the drop-off in performance in recent years. Allegri has led the Italian giants to back-to-back 4th place finishes and then a 7th place finish last season, which is practically unheard of for Juventus over the last decade. Allegri was the Juventus manager for 6 years between 2014 and 2019, in which he had won 5 league titles and 4 Italian Cups. He would return to Juventus in 2021, in which he has won 0 pieces of silverware in his second stint at the club, with fans going on to criticise his negative style of football. Allegri is clearly struggling to get the best out of this Juventus side, with them struggling to create chances in many of the games they played last season. Fans have called for a refresh at the club and them to have some spring cleaning of the club, bring in a younger core in, and people believe that this should start by getting rid of Allegri. On the topic of Allegri failing last season, it is important to address the big elephant in the room. Juventus were handed a 15-point deduction because of financial irregularities and false accounting of recent transfers. This is why I said at the start of the video that the scandal in 2006 will become relevant later in the video, with Juventus being at the heart of financial controversy once again. Decisions with Juventus club's president and the vice president resigning from their positions along with the rest of the board members after finishing 7th last season. Juventus were meant to qualify for the UEFA Conference League, but since then they have been banned from competing in European competition for the next season, with them being slapped with financial fair play breaches by UEFA, meaning they've been kicked out of the Conference League, and Aston Villa have taken their place as a seeded team and not having to go through qualification. Juventus were also accused of inflating transfer fees, with one of the main ones being the deals with Arthur going to Juventus for 80 million euros from Barcelona and Pjanic going the other way. I won't go into the ins and outs of this investigation because it is quite a lot to get your head around, but if you are interested, I will link an article by Goal in the description below which goes into the ban and all the allegations in great detail. The 2023-24 season is going to be a make or break season for the club. This is because they don't have European football to worry about, so they can focus on winning the league title for the first time in 3 years. But if they fail to win this league title for a 4th season in a row, then I think it's 100% time for Allegri to be sacked. Because in the last 2 seasons alone, 2 teams have won the league, AC Milan and Napoli, with Inter Milan winning it the season before. So 3 different teams have won the league in the last 3 years. And also Roma have won a European trophy, with being last season's UEFA Conference League. And in 2023 alone, 3 teams made European finals for Italy, with each one of the European trophies up for grabs had an Italian team in the final, with Fiorentina losing in the Conference League final to West Ham, Roma losing in the Europa League final to Sevilla, and Inter Milan, as mentioned in my last video, losing the Champions League final to Manchester City. This shows that Juventus have lost their monopoly on the Serie A, and they are also in danger of losing their pull power in being able to bring the best talent over to the league. The Serie A is back to being a competitive league like it was in the late 80s and early 90s, and Juventus are being left behind with negative football and a lack of recent success. With Napoli getting all of the recent headlines with their exciting brand of football and winning the league with a vibrant young squad. That is all I have for today's video discussing Juventus. Give me your opinions down below, and also don't forget to leave a comment saying what you want to see next. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Go check out the rest of the videos on the channel, and don't forget to subscribe because it really helps the channel out. But I have been Nathan. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.